Andrew Parker.
Right.
Take it away.
Folks, I'm going to take a slightly different route. I want to share with you, I did a fairly major presentation last year on CLIPSA, the Clip-Refeersburg Sustainability Association. We've moved a long way in the last 12 months in terms of where we're going and the projects we're working on. I'm going to put this into a PDF. When you get it, you'll see these little square things. Click on it and you get all the detail. But I'm not going to go through that now. I'm just going to show you the sort of things we're working on. This is an investment framework we're working on in terms of the projects. I'm going to set up just sort of the spatial context that we're working in, and then show you some of the projects that we're working on. There's a sort of background philosophy, authority, strategies and plans. We're talking about IDPs. Joburg's got a GDS 2040, and the IDP. CLIPS is one of the only organizations, in fact, last year's IDP was the only organization that was actually referenced in the Joburg IDP. As a result, a lot of the stuff we're doing now, and a lot of the ideas we've been making are being taken up by Joburg. So the urban development boundary, as far as Joburg is concerned, is sacrosanct. There's no more breakthroughs. The whole question of biodiversity outside that urban development boundary is now being strongly recognized, and their policies regarding spatial development are being reviewed and rethought about in terms of how do they take the value out of it, which is what we've been looking at. Some of the spatial linkages and integration, and I'll touch on that just now, and then the development investment. Now, although I'm going to focus on these southern areas, to the north of us we have mine impacted areas. And those, because of the rivers and the connections, actually impact on the area we're looking at. So I'm just going to give you a bit of a spatial feeling as to where we are. Okay, this is Joburg, central Joburg, the sort of mining belt coming through here. This loop is what we call the Sojo Tourism Development Loop. South of Joburg, that's the southern bypass, the N1, the N3, Midvaal sitting down here, Soweto, and then sort of central northern Joburg going up to Midrand. And our focus is set by the context of where we are sitting. We have high unemployment areas to the south, and with that unemployment is coming food security issues. We've got a lot of people who don't have jobs, and we have to look at addressing those social and economic inequalities. But what we're finding is Joburg and Gauteng, all the developments going up there. And where are the poor people? They're the poor guys who've got to get onto transport, and we've got huge transportation networks, rail wires and buses, and we've got to move all these thousands of people, and there's a whooshing sound in the morning and a whooshing sound at night. Why don't we develop where the people are living? And that's something that we've been working on for years. Why don't we bring corridors of development to the south of Joburg? But our problem is to attract investors. Because the investors and the developers want to sit where industry is. They want to sit where the government is putting all the infrastructure. They don't want to come south. The south is always the south. So how do we get them down there? The environmental corridor sits here. When you look at the spatial plans for Joburg, there's a great big wide virginal spot ready for raping, and the developers are looking at it. They want to put housing in there. Lots of houses. City Council wants to put lots of houses. We said, whoa, stop. You put houses here, where are these poor guys going to work? They're going to work up here as well, and you're going to transport them. So why don't we bring jobs and employment to the south? And what struck us is through the GDS 2040, this area has high agricultural potential. It used to be the food basket for Joburg. So why don't we turn it back into a food basket? But not traditional mealies and mombies. The mombies are getting slaughtered and the mealies are getting pinched. So we have to look at a different type of agriculture. High productivity, high employment, high yielding, organic based. Why? The Klip River runs through here and we drink the water. So we've got to look at how we can contribute to improving that. Now this is a very interesting slide. That is the index of deprivation. That's the highest. This is the south of Joburg. We're sitting in this area. And where's all the jobs, the infrastructure? You look at the provincial transportation network, well, up here. And I said, guys, you're missing the plot. I in fact went as far in one presentation, I said, you're perpetuating apartheid. And there was a horrible silence. Okay, let me just take you a little further, just quickly. This is the GDS 2040. Here you can see the southern development corridors, now spatially established. East-west, which is the mining areas. And we're sitting right where it counts most. But key out of that document is that statement. And that is our most important lever. That biodiversity value, which we sit in the south of Joburg with, is giving us the leverage because it's in their strategy document. And that's largely because of the input, I say it myself, that we've been making. The IDP for 2 years ago, our submission, and we were the only submission that was referenced, and this is what has been happening. The instruction in their integrated development plan is that our issues will be taken forward. I've got a big scar and a bruise here because I've been headbutting. But we're now getting there. We're getting Section 79 committee visits. We're getting meetings and discussions being raised by the departments and the officials themselves to have a look at the projects and initiatives we're working on. Now what I want to do is just to take you into a slightly different field and say, yeah, what's happening here? So I'm going to take those out and just go up to the top here. This is south of Joburg. Okay. Central Joburg is the M1 coming down here. We've got the Klip River running through here. Suikerbosrand is off on the side there. The Midvaal guys are down here and coming into this area. Southern bypass. Now we put in our jewel of the south. And our jewel of the south is the nature reserve. 680 hectares, pristine, right in the middle of Joburg. We're now talking to owners in that area and we're looking at expanding it to over 1,000 hectares with the adjacent landowners and with the Joburg Council. Biodiversity value of particular interest, the wetlands coming through here, that's the Klip River itself. And you'll see one of the projects we're working on is there. But look at that bit. That's in the mining belt. Those are slime stamps. The whole question of acid water coming through this area. How do we address that? So if we're going to have an impact here, we also have to have an impact up there. Unfortunately, one of my main clients, iProp, owns a lot of that land. I used to be with them. I was party of it. I left them in '97, and they're still allowing me to work on this land with this project in terms of the development of the mining land and the addressing of these issues. So now let's see how this fits in. Let's look at the southern and some of the projects we're working on. In no particular order. Rosettenville. This is a project where we've set up the WITS architectural department. They've got a 3-year embedded student studio project. For 3 years, they've got students running live projects: architecture, social, geography, urban design, planning, economics in the Rosettenville Turffontein area. Poor area, huge degradation, and in principle what we're saying is if we fix this area up and get higher density, improved infrastructure, address the problems that are going on with the infrastructure in that area, we can save that area. That's Moffat Park. Moffat Park, they want to put 5,000 housing units on it. So what they're doing is putting a whole lot of new infrastructure, which they're not maintaining the existing. So they now have an area in decline and a new area. We say, no guys, it doesn't make sense. Fix up this area, upgrade the infrastructure. You've got the basic social, economic and hard infrastructure, and leave that area alone. If you want to use that, take a bit of it and create money which will then look after that. And look at some sort of biodiversity stewardship thing. Weberpan, also in this area, exists. It's actually an old mining pan. It's still got water rights for the mines in the area. We've got an urban development plan approved, framework approved. And again, we're working with the council, looking at initial projects. The biggest problem is the property company hasn't a clue who leases what for what. In the last 2 years, we've been trying to sort out the legalities, who's sitting with leases. Regional interface is an interesting one. If anybody has tried to get hold of a big metropolitan council to find out what the hell's happening with robots, stormwater, lights, etc., Joburg is one of the classics. It's impossible. Sojo Business and Tourism, their work focuses around that interface. So what we do as Sojo is create an opportunity for business to do business. We create the environment that business worries about business, not their problems with the council. Now, Joburg has asked us to take this into a regional context. Within the inner city of Joburg, they've got a very powerful structure. Until a few years ago, it crumbled, and they're rebuilding it at the moment. But it's looking after that interface between business and the council. So what we've done is we've now got approval from the council to actually initiate for an interface structure between the council and the rest of the region to look at that management and delivery of services. Kubik's fascinating. 13 kilometers from Boyson's Road all the way down to Swartkoppies Road. Where am I? That's Michelle Avenue. Goes further south. Let's just open it up. 13 kilometer stretch of road. It's dual carriageway. One of the main entrances into the middle of Joburg. And it's used extensively by many people. But it looks horrible. Okay, the dumping, the illegal dumping, we've got high density or medium density guys. We've got a surfboard lying on the side of Clip River Drive. I don't know we've got a surfboard. Sorry, Durban, but keep your rubbish to yourselves. Okay? And we're standing there talking, and the guys are just tipping rubbish and looking at us as they're tipping rubbish. Okay? We have a huge behavioural issue. We've got to look at the setup. But the focus of this is to create a biodiversity corridor. That biodiversity corridor has got to be greened up, trees, plants, shrubs, right down to ground covers, focusing particularly on the southern bypass, from the southern bypass to the south, where we come through the nature reserve area, and through the ridges here. Where my Clip River Drive, Impala Road comes off here. That's Tabiaba, if you know the area. But that area from the southern bypass, very natural. We had, in fact, 2 weekends ago, last Friday, had a whole propagation day. And we had guys planting seeds, doing cuttings, splitting and planting small saplings. Very exciting project. We reckon probably 150,000 plants and about 10 million rands worth of investment. Clip River Wetland, I pointed out earlier on. That is a huge sponge and filter for the Clip River. As you see, it comes through Soweto up into the mining areas. At this stage, we're focusing north of Lens. This area is particularly pristine, it's lovely. But from here, the farmers have had a great time. They've dug furrows and they're dumping in it and they're encroaching on it, all sorts of problems. And we're saying, no, this can't happen. But the other problem is we've got 3 local authorities. We've got Ekurhuleni, Midvaal and Joburg, and they all do this. It's your problem, your problem, your problem. So nobody does anything. So we said, nuts, we've got to do something. So we've initiated a process. We've done a scoping process with major stakeholders. We've got a whole lot of issues, and we're now putting together a project proposal, project plan. Interesting thing about this one, a lot of that area is dry, and the peat moss isn't wet anymore. And the question is, how is the water cleaner? Gets in here dirty, gets out here cleaner. But how's it working if the wetland's dry? What we believe, we've got the black reef running through here, and we've got dolomites. And we think we've got seeps. You see these coming in here. We haven't got midvals, unfortunately. Midval, please let your wetland study. We've got seeps coming out of these ridges. Beautiful, beautiful clean water. And what we believe is it's coming from the dolomitics here and coming through. Now, one of the theories is that we dam across that valley, reflood the wetlands and get them going again. Reflow has been very successful just outside Pretoria in that way. But the worry is, if we do that, the Gunji water is going to go into the Dolomites and we're going to get Gunji water coming out of those seeps. So we need to study it, we need to find out what's best. And unfortunately, Alan Batchelor, who was a proponent of not damming, and Spike from Wits is a proponent of damming. I was going to put them in a room together, give them peanuts and water and say, you're not coming out until you sort out the best way. We've got to get the clever boys. We need to invest in studies here and find out the best way of dealing with that problem. That's not mine, I know, because mine's on silent. The Environmental Education Centre, we don't have an Environmental Education Centre in the south of Joburg. So we're looking at the Clipperfield Rec Centre, the entrance precinct. Joburg's put 2 million rand already in this year's budget towards it. So we're starting small, there's some buildings there, we're going to start converting those. But we're looking at a major environmental education centre, looking at medicinal plants, looking at indigenous plants, nurseries, education, training, and the big thing is the agricultural project and the training on that. Green Business Platform, that's an initiative that we have, monthly talking to businesses about their business and their sustainability. We have various speakers talking on waste management, on energy management, on looking after their people, stress levels. So we're saying to business, if you have a good business running properly, it's going to be more sustainable and more profitable. I don't talk to them about penguins and polar bears because they're not interested in penguins and polar bears. They're interested in profits. And on that basis, we've now been running for nearly 2 years and we're seeing fantastic results. The guys are coming back and saying, we're trying stuff, we're seeing stuff. It's first Tuesday of every month. If anybody wants to come along, please feel free. We have a website, a Clipsa website, we have a Facebook, and we're putting out stuff. I also put out in my own field a whole lot of, on a daily basis, 7:15 every morning, I put out stuff that I found about business, about development, about sustainability. Sustainable urban living, that is looking at the residents and saying, guys, you're going to have problems with water, sewage, electricity costs in the future. How do you plant your own vegetable gardens? How do you manage your water capture at home and reuse? So we have monthly talks again on sustainable urban living. Sorry, that's sustainable urban development. Sustainable urban living, I'll keep on that one. And again, we had a fascinating talk on Wednesday night. Something circle. I've forgotten the name now. But talking about compost heaps, wormeries, talking about companion planting, all of that sort of stuff. 30, 40 people, fantastic buzz, and really seeing benefit out of that in terms of the people's benefits. The Sustainable Urban Development, that's a team that I head up, where we're looking at a proactive approach to development. Now, I remember a few years ago when I started as the Clipperfield Conservancy, and I remember the faces of shock and horror when I said, as a conservancy, we want development in our area. It was horror. We do want development, but we want the appropriate development. We cannot stop development in the centre of Joburg, but we can try and guide the right type of development in. So as a sustainable development team, we are approaching developers. We've got, for example, where am I? Andrew, speak to me. What? I disorientated this thing. R82, R59, here we are. Tip River Drive, that's Aspen here. Regional shopping centre, about the size of the Glen, if you know the Glen shopping centre, going into a corner here. I have huge problems with it, and we've spoken to the guys. We've raised issues of concern around access, the environmental impact, the need for it, and that sort of thing. We can't stop it, we can only raise the flags and hope the authorities will pick it up. We haven't got the resources to go into major legal battles. We haven't got the time, the energy, or the money to do it. So we're raising these issues. Stone River's Arch, Reg mentioned. They started with a concept the same as Melrose Arch. We stopped them. We said, rethink, look at the site, look at the environmental impact. They're now looking at biomimicry as a basis for their design. How do they look at visual impact? Well, how does a leopard disappear into grass? It has camouflage. So how do we camouflage those buildings? So working with the teams there, they've identified all the environmentally sensitive areas. And that particular development, based on Tabaya Botswana, they've got, I can't remember, about 300-400 hectares. And they're taking a portion of that, putting a viable development on it. And then some of the money from that development will be ploughed into the management and maintenance of that area from a biodiversity point of view. And they're one of the landowners that we're talking to put together the linkage into the Klip-Riviersberg Nature Reserve, possibly an earth bridge over Impala Road, and creating a 1,000-hectare nature reserve. Remember we were talking about that. We had Joburg Council 2 days ago looking at it. So that's the projects in the south. Now just quickly, so that you understand, the biggest project we've got is around the Agritropolis. The Agritropolis is saying agricultural opportunities here, the new value chain in terms of economics. We can look at agro-processing into the Golden Highway, N1, R82, and the R59. Martin, you were talking about the industrial commercial along there.
Sorry, if I can just interject, what's happening with the developments on those ridges, Plakop and all of that stuff, because that's all going to impact in what you're saying in terms of the development on the south.
Down in this area?
That area, yeah.
I haven't had a chance to get into Midvale to find out about it. There were 5 applications there under Blue IQ.
Yeah.
I know one of them's going ahead. The one near Plakop. That one is apparently going ahead. But I haven't had any feedback on the others. There's a major, just off Klip River Drive, off the Klip River here, there's a major residential development here as well. Don't know what's happening there. But the whole idea is that we run with this agricultural area and we take it along the R50 to the south of Katlehong here. Along the R550 near the N3, we have a new logistics hub, Springs Tumble, which is going to support in 7 to 10 years' time City Deep in terms of freight logistics. So we can start to look at agricultural production in this area. We can start to look at the agro-processing into those areas and integrate into this tourism. So you're talking agro-tourism, eco-tourism, you're talking about agro-processing, hydroponics, aquaponics, all of that sort of thing happening in the south of Joburg. Okay? What are we doing? The concept we're working on is we're talking about the baker's dozen. We bring the local community guys in. They will do the farming, the small guys. They produce 13 tomatoes. 3 of those tomatoes they eat, so we address food security, we're addressing employment. 3 of those tomatoes they sell to their community, to their friends, to the co-ops. 3 of those tomatoes sell to the bigger guys, the Wilbur's, the Spar. Now they don't want junk, they want good quality tomatoes. So they're going to help in the training and development of these farmers, which is where the Education Research Centre comes in. I've got 4 tomatoes left over. What happens to them? They go back into the earth. So we're actually giving more back into the area than taking away. The idea is that we contribute back to this area, addressing employment, addressing food security, and hopefully getting the area, new economic drive in the area. One of the things we're looking at with SOJA is city improvement districts, nodes of economic development through the area. Those city improvement districts will become focused and as part of the city's spatial development framework. So we're working with SOJA, tourism and business to actually establish these nodes. Panorama, Deprivation, Eikenhof, Nazareth, Rocheville, Crown City, all of those areas will be part of a commercial and industrial network through the south. And then we can start to look at the mine impacted areas and the projects there. I'm just going to tick them quickly because of time. I don't want to get full foul of the chairman, because I know he's looking at me. In the mine impacted areas, the projects we're looking at: solar generation. We've got the tops of these dumps available for at least the next 15 to 20 years. We want to put solar panel arrays on there and start to generate electricity out of there. Project Lakisa is the cleanup of the dumps. We were limited by the capacity of these major dumps near Nazareth. That's Soccer City and the Nazareth dumps. And we were limited in terms of what we could remove. DRD Gold has just spent 400 million rand for a pipeline from here across to the Ergo plant. That then allows them to process and bring their material, where am I? There. Okay? So that's going to be the final resting place for a lot of the dumps in this area. Consolidation, removing point sources of pollution. It starts to address acid mine drainage, because a lot of the problem is the water falling on the ground, A, washing into the rivers, B, going into underground. A and B is a whole different story. Fascinating, and it's part of what we have to address through this area. City Deep as a major freight logistics hub. We're working with, again, IPROP in terms of infrastructural development there. And then the other interesting one is a waste energy plant. We've got a major municipal dump next to it, a vacant area. We're setting up a clean energy generator using the waste. The city improvement districts that you saw are also going to be prime sources of feed for that plant. And we can start to reduce the overburden and the dumping, the size of that dump, and start to put it into energy. Folks, we're at a stage now where we're looking at a Southern Development Agency, which is going to start taking an active role in all of these projects, coordinating them. You will have noticed there's a lot of interplay, there's a lot of interaction, there's a lot of integration between the different projects that we're working on. Talking to the municipal authorities, the guys are saying they can't do this. We're saying business sector wants to do it, community wants to do it. As long as Joburg, Midvaal and Ekurhuleni give us that enabling environment, we'll put this together. We've got people, we've got investors that want to get on with it. And that's what we're working with on Joburg. So our positive in terms of some of the issues you were raising, we've taken a proactive approach, working with the authorities to actually address and realize these projects in the south of Joburg. It's going to be a big change in the game there, and it's going to be very exciting. Thanks very much, Chair. And any questions, queries? Talk.
Are there any questions?
Are you aware of the Dobsonville recycling project?
That's part of City Power.
Okay, because behind the cement works, there's a major dump there as well, and they're actually looking to recycle that dump and actually make some type of building material or something out of it as well.
I hadn't picked that bit up.
Yeah, Dobsonville Road into Soweto, the dump there.
That comes down through DRD's old area there,
Yeah. So that's just that, I'm aware of it.
I'm aware of that dump.
Yeah,
it's, I would say Margaret or something. It's the name of a lady.
Yes, of a lady, yeah.
Yeah, I know the dump. Yeah.
Okay.
But City Waste is doing a lot of stuff on that. Okay.
Okay. All right. If there are no more questions.
There's a hand here.
Quick one. This is a hell of a lot for a single conservancy to be doing. You represent more than a conservancy.
Okay,
yeah.
it's not a conservancy.
Not a conservancy, yeah.
We're Klippriviersburg Sustainability Association. We started to look at registering as a conservancy. And when we said that we wanted, it was 150 square kilometers and over 50,000 properties. There's a couple of gentlemen here who said, you're nuts. And GDOT said, no ways. Okay?
Now, actually, if you rephrase it, is you won't get membership in that area to allow you to actually register that conservancy,
No, well,
because you have to have density of members.
No, what
That's the
what
problem.
GDOT wanted
Yeah.
is smaller areas where the property is signed in.
Yes.
Okay? And the key to that is another conservancy in Joburg, no names, no actor, who started to fight property development on the basis, you're in a conservancy, you can't do that. And he said, well, I've never signed anything to be in a conservancy. So GDAR has said they'd rather go the biodiversity stewardship, protected areas opportunities, and get people to sign in as part of that. And when we had those discussions, it actually made us sit back, rethink, and say, what can we do? If, in fact, we were a conservancy in this area, we couldn't have conservancies within a conservancy. So the logic said actually pull back. Part of the Sustainable Urban Development team is to look at a number of major developments, which we're working with, to move them into the biodiversity stewardship program, or a conservancy. So we're starting them as conservancies. I give them the whole hog in terms of the biodiversity stewardship, and say, look at that. Run your application based on the environmental requirements of that. As and when Gauteng gets their act together, we'll slip you in as part of that biodiversity stewardship. You can then get the tax and the technical support. GDART is not coping with that at all. But it's a good excuse to get the developers to think about what they're doing. And Tavi Botswana is going that route. Aspen's saying they will go for a conservancy. And I've got another developer who's saying he will look at the biodiversity stewardship as well. So within the area, we're encouraging conservancies and biodiversity stewardship programs.
How do you fit in with this group then? You're an association?
We're associated. In terms of the Constitution, last year's AGM, we were recognized as an associate member.
Association.
Yeah.